Hello everybody, so this video is entitled MSTR Stock Q1 2026 Earnings, and my summary is Steady Eddy winning simply. Sailor has a very simple strategy, and in a nutshell it can be summarized that it's all about stretch. It is all about stretch. Stretch is the iPhone moment for the company. They are betting the farm on stretch, essentially. And this is why this stock doesn't really move much on earnings. This stock does not move much of earnings. Earnings have almost become irrelevant for strategy, aside from the call, right? The call is going to be more important, and I'll report on the call maybe tomorrow. The call is going to be more important, but really the earnings release, they've been replaced by the 8Ks. Those weekly 8Ks we have all of the information that we need in those. And I suppose that they report on the software business every quarter. But here's the thing. The software business for the first quarter of revenue was only 124 million. And so when you're talking about a company that has $67 billion of Bitcoin, 120 million doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really change much. So this stock mostly trades on MNAV, right, times the Bitcoin price. And so the Bitcoin price matters the most when MNAV is stable. Sometimes you have MNAV expansion. Sometimes you have MNAV reduction. I hope that EATMs might go. My thought on this is that I want him to ATM. I want him to sell these $100 bills for 127 because 1.27 MNAV technically means that the company is overvalued by 27%. So that would be my hope, although he hasn't really been doing too much common ATM lately because, once again, Steady Eddy. The goal is to win simply, win with stretch, focus on stretch, just focus the company on stretch. And that's totally what he's doing. If you look at the tweet that he had today, it's like, join us on the call where we're going to discuss the state of MSTR and STRC, MSTR and STRC. And of course, the Bitcoin yield is the third element, right? So if MNAV is stable, the stock is going to trade at the same as Bitcoin, right? If MNAV doesn't move, then the stock is roughly going to be moving in line with Bitcoin. But the thing is, on top of that, you got to add the yield, the BTC yield. The BTC yield is your yearly return on the stock, roughly. So 9.4%. Think about that. 9.4% Bitcoin yield, and we're at Q1. This is Q1. We're at 9.4%, right? We're in May. So are we going to have 20% yield this year, BTC yield for the year? Is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be maybe even 25%? Well, it depends a lot on the success of stretch, and it depends a lot on, of course, MNAV being high. The higher the MNAV, the more yield you can accrete, the more BTC yield you can create for the shareholders. I want to say two more things. Now, a key element, and in the letter we keep talking about this, a key element, of course, of stretch being the future of this company, what this company is betting kind of everything on. Stretch is a return of capital dividend. Why is it a return of capital dividend? Because the company is making losses per GAAP accounting, and operating loss is 14 billion. Now I didn't take a screenshot of the headlines that I've already seen because I don't want to dignify that, but the headlines are reporting, oh, strategy reports a huge loss. These are robo journalists. This is a paper loss. Like, this is not an actual loss. This is a paper loss. But from an accounting standpoint, these losses allow strategy. They allow MSTR to actually give a return of capital yield, which is very appealing to credit investors. And I also want to have another thought, which I think is interesting. So I've been covering this business for years, of course. The software business didn't used to be growing this fast. 12% increase year over year in the software business is actually really, really good, because this software business was flat. The software business was not growing. And we know they've transitioned to a cloud model with a monthly payment for their software business. The software business, when I first started covering the stock, the software business kind of was like an added margin of safety. Today, the software business does not matter as much, but I think it's noteworthy that it's growing at 12% year over year. And here's another take that I have about the software business. Sailor can afford to gain a lot of customers on the software business because he can sell the product at a loss. Because a loss actually becomes beneficial for strategy. because the loss means that you get to pay a return on capital. Of course, most of that loss comes from the Bitcoin, right? The unrealized loss on Bitcoin. But sometimes I try to think like, could Bitcoin going up finance the expansion of a very large software business that actually doesn't need to make money for decades, right? Could Bitcoin gains subsidize the commercialization of the strategy software, and therefore could the strategy software actually become a much bigger business at one point in the future? Maybe. I think that's an interesting point. Anyways, talking about digital credit, the only game at this point. And if you look at the earnings released, you can see that this quarter only 3 million of strike, and strike that was very early in the quarter. And I just don't think we are going to see ATM for Strike, Strife, Stride, or Stream. We're not going to see ATM on those anymore. I think Saylor likes a very simple company, MSTR and STRC. These two ticker symbols can be thought of as the product of strategy. Strategy sells equities. It sells MSTR equity at a premium to generate a yield, a 27% premium, and it sells STRC equity, which is an equity, of course, which is strapped of volatility, a very low vol equity, a very high return in the fiat world, low return in the Bitcoin world, but in exchange of these lower return for the Bitcoin world, what do you get? You get a less volatile asset. And you can see, unfortunately, today in the market, another rather weak day for a lot of tech-related stuff today. You know, a few big earnings again coming up soon. So and tonight, like a lot of companies reporting tonight. So the point I'm trying to make is you know, we've had a hard time getting back to 100. You know, Saylor must be frustrated about this. We've had a hard time. We're gonna get there. It's gonna happen, but it's taken longer than I thought. So to me, we are 4 pennies away, right? So tomorrow most likely we hit 100, right? We went up to 2 pennies away from 100. But anyways, they made the right decision, by the way. They announced that yesterday. They kept the yield the same, 11.5%. 11% is the third month in a row that they keep the yield the same. And let me conclude this video so that you can get to the call, which I'm going to get to. It starts in 10 minutes as I record this. MSTR is so transparent, like I said. But if you look, we barely move on earnings. Like okay, we're up 1.6%, we're down 1% as I took the screenshot. The earnings were reported, and Bitcoin was up nearly 2%. And by the way, yesterday we greatly outperformed Bitcoin. So this stock barely moves on earnings. This stock moves on weekly 8Ks. It doesn't move on earnings. And I think that, by the way, I think over the long term in the future, a lot of companies are just going to report more often. And if they report more often, then you're not going to move on earnings. And so this is a pretty compelling business. I love this business, and I'm not the only one, of course. I am not the only one who's all about this company. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is just entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.